Hey everybody, Mr. Face here. I have been away for a very long time, as you've noticed, and normally I'd start the video with like a fun little monologue that kind of gives some foreshadowing to the story, but tonight I feel like I owe you guys a little bit of an explanation. My life has been kind of a mess lately, especially this last year. It's been pretty rough. And I'm not going to get too into detail, but I'll just say this. There's a lot going on in my personal life, in my business life, like on the stream, and just a lot of stuff. I ended up, because, how do I explain this? God, this is kind of unscripted. I've basically tried to record this like 4 times and didn't know how to explain it. To put it in the easiest terms I can, I fell into a depression like most of this year, and it really just took everything away from my work ethic. It took everything away from anything I had planned or wanted to do. I haven't even started writing Inside the Pine Forest Part 3 because I had to scrap it because a lot of people who were involved in that aren't involved in my life anymore or just can't do it, and that kind of messed me up a little bit. But I'm back and I'm gonna try and post more frequently. I want to thank the people from the channel who did reach out to me to make sure I was okay, and the people in my personal life as well who did the same. So thank you guys for that, and I feel like I owe you guys a good story. So tonight's story is The Lights in the Woods.
I think there's angels in the woods, Rob, my 10-year-old brother said as he was overcome with enthusiasm this morning. There are no angels here in Chapel Hill. They live in heaven, Edward. He then proceeded with excitement riddling his speech. I saw something bright and magical come from the woods next to our farm. It was a dream, Edward. That night after finishing my work, as I was locking up the barn, I then noticed something in the distance, something very strange. It seemed to glow in the tree line of the woods, wiggling and moving its way back through the trees. I thought at first it could just be some hunters, yet something was off about it. It was a very large, unfamiliar color, unlike anything I'd ever seen before, so I was intrigued. I decided to go and figure out what the odd glow was. So I began marching through the marshy, leaf-filled woodland surface. While exploring in the pitch-black darkness of the woods, I noticed that there seemed to be a bizarre ambient humming sound. It's like it was everywhere and nowhere. As the light got a little larger and larger, the humming sound also got louder. My curiosity got the better of me. I began to run towards the source of light. I abruptly stopped and saw a dark, mysterious figure roaming around aimlessly in front of the loud, illuminated light source. I covertly snuck up closer and tried to determine whatever it was. Once I could make it out, my investigation came to a shockingly frightening conclusion. Standing 10 feet away from me was a creature like no other. It was 8 feet tall. It had an elongated skull. It also had giant, deep, black almond eyes. It had a blood scarlet skin and razor-sharp claws. They looked as if they could pierce its own skin, simply with a gentle poke. The loud humming light source it was standing in front of seemed to be very large and sophisticatedly engineered metallic vehicle of some kind, which was hovering a foot off the ground. I stood there and watched it for about a minute or two, and I thought to myself, this is no being of earthly origin. I was completely paralyzed by fear as my uncontrollable nerves began running up and down. Anxiety soaked my body. I suddenly dropped to the ground and I think I fainted, I don't remember. I awoke the next morning in a state of complete confusion and surprise. I made my way to the spot where the vehicle and entity had stood. I noticed that that very spot was dry and completely clear of leaves and twigs, while everything else around the woodland was damp and covered in foliage. I made it home and informed my father about the strange event the night before. My father looked up at me with a concerned look on his face and responded by saying, "Robert, you're working too hard. I'll work today while you get some rest, son." I went to bed that night with nothing but the repulsive-looking creature permanently tattooed in my mind. As I awoke the next morning, I noticed my father had left his chores halfway finished, and I saw the barn was open as well. Concerned, I hunted high and low throughout the farm and shouted myself hoarse, but he was nowhere to be found. I looked for him outside, and all I could find were his big footprints leading towards the woods, so I frantically ran into the forest. Following his boot prints. While shouting and screaming, I eventually came to where I woke up earlier the night before, and in that exact spot I saw the vehicle, and I found my dad's hat, but nothing else. It's been 5 days and my dad hasn't been seen since. I haven't seen the astonishing lights dancing in the forest. I just know my dad's gone because of that gut-churning freak of nature. But wherever he is, I hope he's safe.